Listen to how Andy Strauss went from working at his family business to being a manager at Xerox to ultimately starting, building, and running a very successful family law firm. Welcome back to the Revenue Roadmap, a podcast designed for family law firm owners who are looking to level up their practice, learn from experts, and take their firm to the next level. My name is Tyler Dolph. I am the CEO of Rocket Clicks, a hyper-focused digital marketing firm that works exclusively with family lawyers across the country. We also own and operate our own family law firm called Sterling Lawyers that has grown to over 30 attorneys across 2 different states. Today, we are interviewing Andrew Strauss, the founder of Strauss Attorneys. Andrew's story is an awesome one. He leveraged his prior business experience to own and build a law firm based on business principles and practices, and now is very successful. He has a great story, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, welcome everyone back to another exciting episode of Revenue Roadmap. Today, we are very lucky to have Andy Strauss with us of Strauss Attorneys. Andy, thank you so much for your time and being here today. We really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Hope I can give you some productive information that's useful for everybody.
No, I'm sure you will. Let's kick us off and get started. Andy, will you tell us a little bit about your story, your background? How did you start out in this space, and where are you today?
Well, I'd be happy to. Where I started out and where I ended up was not part of a master strategic plan. I wish I could say it was. I started out in a traditional law track. I worked for a federal judge and then worked for a very large law firm down in Jacksonville, Florida that became purchased by McGuire Wood out of Richmond, Virginia, a major law firm. I did corporate securities work, and a couple of years into my practice, my father asked me to come back and work in a family business. He did not have any successors in the family, and he said, "You're the one, Andy." So my newly married wife and I packed our bags from Jacksonville, Florida, and moved back to Pittsburgh, and where I grew up. And 6 months later, the family that owned the owners of the business, my father included, sold the business to Xerox. And so I ended up working for Xerox for 10 years, not in a legal position, but really kind of as a manager of a business, which served me well when I got into practicing law for myself, because I had experience actually in accounting and managing a business, and real life hands-on experience with good training from Xerox. They ended up selling our business to GE, and I was looking around for something to do while that transition was going on, and a good friend of mine from college, I went to a business school, Wharton in Philadelphia, and a good friend of mine from that school was a CPA, and he was assigned to a company down in Asheville, North Carolina, where I now live. And he said, "Andy, I think we could buy this company that I've been working on, that I've been cleaning it up for sale." And so we put together a venture capital group and bought the company.
No way.
Yeah, it was a $50 million manufacturer of surgical drapes and gowns and protective masks. And we had a good story. It was right when AIDS was in its heyday, and everybody was coating themselves in plastic and protective gear. And we said, we can produce some of that, even though it's kind of a commodity item. So I moved down to Asheville, North Carolina, where I had never been before, but it's an absolutely beautiful place, and I'm so glad I moved. At that point, had a 4-year-old daughter. My first wife had passed away, unfortunately, and I was a single dad involved in a venture capital deal down in Asheville, North Carolina.
Holy
Uh,
cow.
so we then sold that, long story short, a couple years later to a company that had gone public and had lots of cash. And we cashed out. And I went and I said to myself, I need to take some time off. I have this young daughter. What do I want to do with my life? And I encourage everyone out there to take some time and reflect on what is it that you really want to do. And I've always had this romantic notion of being a country lawyer. And so I started my practice in the sunroom of my house when computers were not as efficient as they are today. It would break on me constantly. and, and, um, and I started doing some estate planning partnership work. I always loved estate planning because I had done that in my earlier career with the big law firm. Had done that corporate kind of work. And we still use partnerships in estate planning today in LLCs. So that was a good background for me. But that was the beginning of the firm. It was in my sunroom. I then moved and shared space with a financial advisor. I then added an associate. And today we have 35 employees.
Wow.
And it was not a master plan, I have to tell you. We have actually 4 offices: Raleigh, North Carolina, which is growing very rapidly, Asheville, Hendersonville, and we also have a small office in Landrum, South Carolina, and then a part-time office, so it's 4.5, in Durham, North Carolina. So we have 9 attorneys, and I have, and I'll tell you about it when we get to it. And I have started to transition my ownership to the new breed of attorneys that are owning the firm.
Andy, I think you get the award for most unique story before starting your firm. I mean, that's unbelievable. So many law firm owners we talk to, this is all they've ever done, right? They graduated law school, they worked at a big firm, they decided to step out on their own. You had a whole life, you had a whole career before you started the firm.
And it again, it was not part of the master plan, but it was very challenging, and I've enjoyed everything that I've done. I have to say, I enjoy practicing law the most. So I'm very happy today not being involved in the management of the firm. My ownership interest now is down to 20%. I'm selling out 10% a year. So 2025, it's down to 20%. And I can do what I like to do, and that is meet with clients, hopefully help them with their challenges. And many of my clients now are passing on, and I'm having to administer their estates, which in our particular practice comes with the turf if you've been practicing long enough.
Incredible. Andy, take us back to the sunroom and the old computer.
Yeah.
We talked to a lot of law firm owners about this stage from going from a single, employee. It's me. I'm doing all of the things. I'm running this business that I've started. I think I need to hire someone. Tell us about that process from being the guy and doing all of the things to then figuring out, delegation. And I'm sure you did that in your previous roles, but help our audience understand the importance of taking that next step and being able to delegate out tasks so that you can become more efficient and a better operator.
Well, you make an excellent point. There's only so much time, and even when you're creative about your time, it's very hard to create more time. And the old saying is, law is a jealous mistress because it utilizes so much of your time. And the only way I felt I could leverage myself was to have other people do work that I could supervise and that I could profit on. So it was really a multifaceted situation. I could free myself up to do the kind of work I wanted to do, have somebody else do the more background technical work that was time consuming, and I could make a profit on leveraging that. And so I found that in managing a law firm, you don't have inventory. You have people, and people can be your revenue per full-time equivalent is something every lawyer should be very hyper focused on, because if you let your personnel and expenses get out of hand, you will find that you'll become unprofitable quickly. And your overhead and your nut, so to speak, will eat you alive. So you've got to be very careful on that. So it's a hard thing to do, is to say, if I add more expense, am I going to get the multiple in revenue that's going to pay for that expense? And that's a leap that many people have a hard time making, and understandably, because if you keep your expenses very low, you can drop a great percentage of your revenue to the bottom line, but then you can't maximize that that top line revenue. And I found, for me too, that I needed to have not just other attorneys, but I needed to have paralegals, especially today with our state administration and trust administration practice, which is about 35% of our practice. It's very people intensive, but we can get that done by non-attorneys, and even potentially, and this is the new trend, by foreign employees or foreign staff that can do it a whole lot cheaper than we can do it on shore. We've not done that, but I've had colleagues who have utilized that offshore personnel pool and have done that very successfully.
Yeah, at our law firm at Sterling Lawyers, we have 30 employees that are in the Philippines.
Yeah, there you go. And that's what's causing the great demand, I think, for venture capital in the accounting area, because they're able to leverage themselves dramatically by using personnel offshore. And they have whole staffs and whole offices offshore. We haven't seen as much of that venture capital coming into the law arena, but
I think it's coming.
I think it's coming too. I mean, I think young lawyers out there ought to be prepared for it. I think it's the train has left the station, and it's probably a good train to be on eventually.
We've actually are putting together a podcast on the alternative business structure laws that are changing. They changed in Arizona already, and
right.
You have some non-attorney owners of law firms, which is going to make way for PE to come in and be able to scoop these law firms up and put them together.
Exactly. I think DC has that as well. So yeah, I think that's accounting firms will do it, venture capital firms will do it. This will bring a lot of liquidity to the law practices.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Going back, you went from 1 to 2 employees, and now you're at over 30. Tell us about some of the learnings as you were scaling your firm and being able to take it to a nice size firm. You are much larger than a lot of firms out there. How were you able to make that leap, and what were some of the processes or hires that you made that allow you to continue to scale and grow?
Well, I think hires, you put your finger on a very important issue. I mean, you can make a lot of mistakes in the hiring process, and you can be lucky, but you never want to discount luck. There is a book written, Hire Slow, Fire Fast.
Sure.
And I heartily recommend that people look at their hiring in a very deliberate way, making sure that it's not only a good fit culturally, but that the people that you're hiring have the technical skills and aptitude. I would do testing on that. We didn't have to do that with lawyers, but lawyers, you can certainly tell from their academic record and their past work career, and you would want to make sure you get referrals. We have made, I have to admit, many mistakes in the hiring process, but once you get to a certain size, you can tolerate some mistakes. But it's very expensive to train someone and then not have them work out. And so over time, we found that we had to go through several people to get the ones that really were going to stay, really roll up their sleeves and be committed. And that's hard today because the generational culture is not the same as it was years ago. People, are much more, let's just say, mobile and less committed. So it's a very difficult thing on the hiring, and I would just say be very careful on what you do because the cost of making bad decisions is quite high.
It's very high. I totally agree. Are there any key employees that you feel like really were able to help you get to the next level, and what made them so important?
So I, over time, met people in our community that shared my same vision for client service, for excellence, for putting the client and creating value for the client. And what I ended up doing, and I think this has been one of my secrets of my success, is that I would hire attorneys and oftentimes give them a set salary to begin with for a limited period of time. But in our firm, we really had a more entrepreneurial, eat what you kill culture. And that was a hard thing for attorneys to embrace. Got used to the eat what you kill, they realized they could make a whole lot more revenue for themselves, that it was every bit as secure as a salary, which is really only as secure as the next paycheck. And so it was a very good model, and we attracted people that embraced that model, and I think that's what helped a lot.
100%. You're all rowing in the same direction. There's a lot of alignment there.
Right. But I had a lot of pushback to it. I mean, they had to see that they could actually make more. And when they prospered, I prospered.
Everybody wins in that scenario.
Right.
You got to create the model, and you got to show them the path.
Right.
Right, which is where leadership comes in. Andy, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. One thing we like to do as we're wrapping up these episodes is give us a few, 2 or 3 tips to a young lawyer who maybe at a big firm or has just graduated law school and is looking to go out on their own and start their own firm, which comes with a lot of opportunities for growth, but also means they have to be an entrepreneur. What are a couple of things that they should be thinking about, or books they can read, or topics they should study up on before going out on their own?
Well, first and foremost, don't try to invent the wheel yourself. It's not as intuitive as you might believe it to be. Get good guidance from outside sources. You don't have to be the pioneer here. And you want to learn from other people's mistakes. So it's worth investing in getting that mentoring. Most small businesses fail to a large extent because they don't know how to succeed. They don't have the structure and the processes and the roadmap that they could achieve if they went out and got good guidance on it. So one, don't go it alone. That's first and foremost. Secondly, think about what your unique talents are in how you're going to be perceived in your market. You don't have to be everything to everybody. Um, that's you can be you have really the ability to choose how you define your market and how you approach making sure that you do that in a ethical, profitable way.
Focus is a strength there, right?
Focus, yeah. Hard work. It's not going to be easy. No new practice generally is. Give it time. Um, have a strategy and work the strategy.
I love it. That's so great. Andy, thank you so much again for being on our podcast today. Everyone, if you're listening, Andy, how could someone get in touch with you if they're interested?
Sure. If anybody has a question, I'm happy to be contacted. My direct phone number is 828-210-0506, and my email is Andy, A-N-D-Y, at StraussLaw.com, StraussLaw.com. And we used to have everybody use their first name, but we've gotten big enough now where we have multiple people, so that hasn't been able to be implemented totally. But we try to make it easy for clients to contact us. And finally, I'll just say, one of our hallmarks has been, and this is true of almost all attorneys, is crisp communications with clients, with financial advisors or referral sources. We have an AM PM rule. If we get a call in the AM, we're back to them in the PM. If we get in the PM, we're back at the AM at the latest. And I instilled that in everybody because one of the big beefs people have is that lawyers don't return calls, aren't communicative, and it's so easy for you to stand out and be different if you really try hard to
we say that all the time at our businesses, that as advanced as everyone is and everyone talks about AI and all the things, like customer service is still a superpower, and being able to help your clients and do what you say they're going to do, it's unbelievable how much that works.
There's a book out there on the service economy, and I don't know the exact title, but I recommend it because we are in a service business, bottom line. And if you can differentiate yourself by excellent customer service, I think it'll go a long way.
I love it. Andy, thank you again so much for your time. Everyone, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on the Revenue Roadmap. If you've enjoyed this interview series, we are continuing on interviewing successful law firm owners. Make sure to check out our next one right here.